Hey everyone, today I will be talking about a question that a viewer of mine had asked me quite a while ago. Though it was just a private conversation, it's a situation that a lot of trans women go through, so I thought it would be helpful to extend it into a full video so it can help multiple people. The situation in question is when trans women aren't allowed to pursue their transitions, specifically medical transitions, while they're living with their parents. There are so many different variations that occur in this type of situation, so I'm not going to be able to cater it to every particular circumstance, but I'll do my best to make it broadly applicable so everyone can get something out of it. Everyone's policed in different ways, and they're given different limits on their transition. Everyone has massively different experiences with like euphoria and dysphoria, and they've got different particular aspects that they're more like dysphoric or euphoric about. And one's income or other environmental factors can also play a huge role in changing the circumstances. So this isn't meant to be a hard rule or a list of what you have to do or you can't do. Just feel free to take what's of value and leave what isn't. I'm only able to draw from my personal experience, and my personal experience certainly isn't the every trans experience. Transition is often too hyper-focused on hormones, and while they are like a huge part of transition, they're very much not the sole part. So when it is hyper-focused on just getting hormones, you often leave out a lot of other forms of transition. In my particular situation, I had been transitioning for about 2 years before I was able to start hormones. There's a lot of things that you can do before that point of getting hormones that are able to help with reducing your dysphoria and feeling like you're still having a sense of progress in your transition, as well focusing on other forms of transition helps a lot with setting yourself forward in like where you want to be for when you do actually start hormones. The first thing that I recommend for everyone is to start seeing a doctor. Whether or not you're unable to start your transition because of your environmental factors, such as your parents, or whether it's just because you're not ready at this current point, seeing a doctor can help a lot with getting your dysphoria like medically confirmed and documented, so it's a lot less of a stress once you actually want to start hormones. Getting hormones can be a huge stress and a very, very long wait time with like numerous appointments. So just having a background of your dysphoria being confirmed and the fact that you are trans helps a lot with speeding up the process and just making things a lot easier once you're under a lot of stress. Well, you can also send your prescription to another pharmacy and pay for it yourself out of pocket. I typically wouldn't recommend this for people who do have to hide their transition. There's only about a few months before your transition will become noticeable. So if you do plan on doing this, I would recommend at least having planned a safe space where you will go in a couple months. It's also important to note that being stress-free and being in a safe place will also massively help your transition. Your body's greatly affected by your mental health and well-being, and just reducing that stress will help your body be able to properly focus on puberty. If you're not able to get or wear the clothes that you want to wear, you can always find something that's still able to pass as male when you need it to, but just feels a bit more affirming to you. Women's jeans are a good example of this. They really shape your body and they're affirming to you, but they're not something that can be easily called out by others or used to out you. Find the little ways that you enjoy to express your femininity, whether it's painting your nails or piercing your ears. They're very subtle, but they also allow you that sort of expression. Body mods in general help quite a bit. not just because of how they may change your appearance, but because you're giving yourself control over your own body. When trans women prior to their transition rarely get to do that. If facial hair is something that gives you dysphoria, I'd very strongly recommend pursuing electrolysis. Electrolysis is the only real permanent form of hair removal, but it takes about 2 years to get through all of your hair's growth cycle. So it's a lot easier to start earlier. And especially if you're living at home at the moment, it's a lot easier to save and justify these expenses. An unfortunate requirement of electrolysis is that you do need to grow out your hair for a couple of days before treatments. Being able to get through this point before you're out 100% of the time can be really helpful, and it can be a huge boost to your progress. Likewise, being able to grow out your hair, if you're wanting long hair, can be huge to have that head start. It can take over a year to actually grow out your hair, and it's really helpful to be able to get through that awkward stage as soon as possible. It's also very helpful to be able to start working on your voice early. While it's harder to make significant improvements and get your voice to its ideal point while you're only out part-time, it helps a lot to just be able to have that practice beforehand. It's helpful to be able to build that muscle memory so you know what you're doing with your voice, and it's helpful to have the knowledge of what you need to do and how you can change it. Just having those two things helps a lot in getting your pitch and your resonance to where you want them to be. It's also important to find the small private things that you enjoy that just give you space to be yourself and feel affirmed. These things are rarely explicitly gendered, but they're just giving yourself time to relax and be yourself and not have external social pressures pushed onto you. These can be shaving your legs, having a bath, basic self-care, or whatever you want it to be. They're just good for coping with the social pressures and dysphoria and being able to find comfort in yourself. It's also important to be able to work on your social transition. Use this time to come out to your friends, find a name and pronouns that fit you best. You don't need to be out everywhere, but having some sort of social space where you can be is incredibly huge. They help you find comfort in who you are, and they also provide you with a space where you're able to unlearn a lot of the masking that you have to do when you're pretending to be male and fit into a society that genders you different than how you are. All of these things are huge in being able to cope with your dysphoria and being able to get a sense of progress in your own transition. I hope this video has been entertaining or at least helpful. I'd love to hear your experience, whether it's how you coped with your dysphoria before you were able to transition, or advice you have for others, or it's your current situation as you're struggling with this. And I'll do my best to answer. But anyway, I have to go, so I'll talk to you later.